It has been a minute since I have posted on this channel, but we are here nonetheless. So in this video, I'm going to introduce you to box and whisker plots, and I know that may sound kind of intimidating, but box and whisker plots are pretty simple, and they're a useful tool to visualize and understand a set of data. So let's start here by saying that, for example, we get some test scores back from a class that is scored out of 16, and the scores are as follows. So see, let me change color here. We will say the first student got a 4 out of 16. Well, I said I was going to change the color. The first student got a 4 out of 16, and then a 7, an 8, a 10, 12, 13, 15, and 16. And what we do when we see a set of data and we want to organize it into a box and whisker plot is first find the median, right? And we know how to do that. It is the middle number when ordered from least to greatest, which I have taken the liberty and done already. So we will say, we'll mark out 3 here from each side. And we have 2 numbers here in the middle, but we know that when we have 2 numbers in the median, we're going to take the average or the middle number of these 2 numbers, and that in this case is going to be 11. And let me go ahead and get rid of these red lines because we're going to need to work with those numbers a little bit more. So our median is 11. And for the purpose of box and whisker plots, we want to divide this data set into 4 quarters or quartiles, which is what they're commonly called. So our median here is going to divide it in half. And now what we want to do is divide each half into half so that it's going to be into fourths. And we can see here, if we were to do that, we would get 7 and 8, which the average of is 7.5. Is 7. I'll change colors here. 7.5. 7.5. And that is, well, I'll explain this a little bit more later. And that is the median. And here is what we're going to call Q1. And I'll explain that in a minute. But first, let's find the median here, which is going to be 13 and 15, which is going to get us 14. 14 over here. And this is our third quartile. Now, I'm saying quartiles because these are the quarters that we are going to divide this in, and you'll see why when we plot it. So this here is Q3, and you could imagine if this is Q1 and this is Q3, right in between them would be Q2 or quartile 2. And you may be wondering, well, where is quartile or quarter 4? And we don't commonly use this, but you could think of quarter 4 being the maximum value here. So this would be Q4. And if you really wanted, you could consider the minimum to be Q0. But once again, you're not really going to see that in class, so I'm not going to use that in this video. So now let's try and plot this. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line of the and I'll change colors here, of the minimum value, Q1, Q2, Q3, and the maximum value. So I'm going to draw our box and whisker plot. Let's see, I will draw it in red. So our minimum value was 4, and I'm going to make sure these are straight lines. Our minimum value is 4. Our Q1 or quartile 1 value was 7.5. Our median or Q2 value was 11. Our Q3 or quartile 3 value is 14. And our maximum here was 16. And what we're going to do is actually create box and whiskers, right? So the Q1 and Q3 are going to be the end of the boxes. So I can go ahead and kind of connect these here. And you'll see here the median is actually inside of the first quartile and the third quartile, which is also true for the data set. And then we're going to draw what are referred to as the whiskers of this box on the outside. So the minimum and maximum value are actually the whiskers of this box. And once again, we can label this. We will say min for minimum, Q1, Q2, or the median, Q3, and our maximum. So now we have plotted a box and whisker plot from a set of data. So now let's try and break apart and understand what this box and whisker plot really means. So I've mentioned quartiles and quarters, and a good way to think about that is a quarter is 25% of a dollar. In a similar way, and I'll go ahead and write this, min, Q1, median or Q2, Q3, and then max. In the similar way that a quarter is 25% of a dollar, one of these quartiles is 25% of your data set. So in what we previously plotted, 25% of the points are going to lie between 4 and 7.5. So 25% of our data set. And in the same way, 25% is also distributed among between every quartile. And we could refer to the minimum as Q0 and Q4, which we don't typically do, but it helps us conceptually understand where the data lies. And because of that, box and whisker plots are a good way to understand the distribution of a data set, and that's why they're commonly used in statistics and the rest of the world. Okay, now let's try and construct a box and whisker plot with this set of data, which we can say is the number of minutes that a student spends on homework in a night. So let's first divide this into quartiles. So let's first find the median, right? So the median is going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that looks about right. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our median here is going to be 25, is 25. Median is 25, which we can denote as Q2. And then we can further divide this into the first and third quartiles by saying, well, there's 2 on each side here. And when we have a median, we're going to not include this in finding the quartile 1 and quartile 3. So our quartile 1 in this case will be 15. Will be 15. And I could draw that a little bit better, but it's okay. And then quartile 3, sorry, is going to be is going to be 40. Is going to be 40. That is Q3. And I've once again listed them already in order from least to greatest, which is the smallest will be 10 and the greatest is 70. So we can go ahead and draw our box and whisker plot by drawing once again the minimum, maximum, and then all 3 quartiles here. So let's first draw the minimum. So that is going to be 10. The minimum is 10. Quartile 1 is 15. Quartile 2, or the median, is 25. Quartile 3 is 40. 40. And then the maximum is going to be all the way at 70. All right. And now let's connect the quartile 1 to quartile 3 to create the box. And it's a little bit slanted, but it will do the job. And then and I'll draw this in a different color, our whiskers are going to be connected to the minimum and to quartile 1, and from quartile 3 to the maximum. And you'll notice, I guess I could draw that a little bit more straight. Not perfect, but it'll do. You'll notice this one looks quite a bit different, and you would be right. But remember, the box and whisker plot is going to put 25% of data in each of these quartiles. And you'll notice here between 40 and 70, we have roughly 25% of our data. So this giant line here incorporates 25% of our data, which is between 40 to 70. And then the other 25 here is going to be from 40 to 30. 25% here. The other 25% is between 15 and 25 here, which looks about right. And then 25% of our data is between this range of 5 here, between 10 and 15. 25%. And this is actually what we call a right skewed data set, because you'll notice here as we go off to the right, if we were to actually plot this, the data becomes kind of sparse. And I can I'm plotting this really quick just to show you, and it's not perfect, and we see here that a lot of the data here, it's kind of clumped up in this area. It's clumped up in this area. And then when we go off to the right, you'll notice the data basically isn't even there. So we're going to call this right skew. Likewise, if we had a lot of data points on this side, and then it kind of became, more separated out, this box and whisker plot would be left skewed. All right, now let's do one more problem, and we'll notice here that I have not ordered these from least to greatest. Obviously, 12 is not smaller than 4. So let's go ahead and order these. So let's see, the smallest here is in the data set is going to be 4, so we can mark that out. The next is 6, and then 9, and then 12, and then 17. Sorry. Okay, so the median here, we can mark out 2 for both sides, and the median in this case is going to be 9, so Q2. And then if we were to divide this in half and find quartile 1 and quartile 2, it's going to be the average here between 4 and 6 and 12 and 17. So let's see, this would be 10 minus 2, or divided by 2, sorry, is 5. It's Q1. And then 12 plus 17 is 29, divided by 2 is 14 and a half, 14.5. That is Q3. So we can go ahead and plot this box and whisker plot, but actually I didn't number the lines here, so we can go ahead and do that. We can say, let's see, each of these is, smallest is 4, greatest 17. Let's go ahead and number them by 2. So let's see, 2, that's 4, so that is 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, and then 28 and 30 and 30. All right, so let's go ahead and plot the minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and the maximum. And I will draw this one. In blue. So let's see, the minimum here is 4, so 2, 4, and then 6. And then quartile 2 is 9, so this would be 8, and then in the middle would be 9. And then a 14 and a half. Let's see here. This is 14. Right here is 15, so we're going to be a quarter way between 14 and 16 here. And then, of course, 17, which would be between 16 and 18. We can connect Q1 and Q3 to form our box. And then we would connect the whiskers, of course. And this one isn't necessarily very skewed, but we could see here that 50% of the data, 50, and I'll do this, 50% of the data here is between this, and then 50 is here, because this is 25 and 25 and 25 and 25. So it is a little bit right skewed, but for the most part, it's more uniform. And we are done.